pressure their Ana out of high ground. You can also pressure their Pharah Mercy and their Widow. I don't know your hero pulse, but that would usually be the pick there.
Yeah.
So I just like.
Tracer's also fairly decent. I'll explain why specifically on this map once we get an overhead of point.
Just like blew up. Okay. We go inside left.
We can pull that baby diva.
Yeah, go for it.
We still down far.
This is not worth a commit. It's kind of just wasting our time and cooldowns.
Down far.
She backed up. The monkey's half
back left.
here.
Their
Let's go
tanks
inside
engage
left,
on it
inside
for whatever
left,
reason.
inside left here. You have suck?
Alright.
Yeah,
I can Valk us in.
I'm pulling.
Oh, I say. I'm gonna wait for overhead again. We want to be. I'll talk about the rotation. We want to be rotating upstairs here because the pressures are on off if they're playing like any of this area. We can also pressure Pharah better from up here. We are gonna get contested as we rotate up, so that might be an issue. But it's generally just the safer play. The one thing that we do get on this retake is that it's a very long fight and they get to like 90 something. So we do want to also be making moves towards point. So yeah, they do their defensive brush.
Fars one. Got her.
It's fine, no more ults. No more ults. Leave him to die. Or not. He lives, apparently. Oh, we're okay, this is winnable now if we can get back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Can you solo Valk
This
someone?
isn't necessarily
Can you
winnable.
solo
We should
Valk
take it a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing it.
The Mercy's one.
Yeah, because their tank line isn't set up. Once their tank line gets set up, it might be winnable, but get a little bit antsy.
Yeah, that was my brain thinking that they had res or didn't have res.
What is back?
I'm
It's an interesting bomb. This is good though because Pharah Mercy's on the right side, I think, so we're getting a decent cross range point. It would be better if we were on stairs because then we could just pincer them.
Fuck. Or I'm alive.
Now we need to start really making moves towards point
Okay.
because this is the point where they just end up slowly contesting. Alright, so Tracer is again go Widow if you want or if you can. Tracer's good because she can easily wrap around and pressure healers off of high ground or from this area. She's also just generally okay for contesting this point since it's easy access for her and they don't have much to deal with it. So it's more of a poking thing. Widow's better because you can also pressure their on out like you would on Tracer, while pressuring their Pharah Mercy. So yeah, Nano Diva is pretty scary at close range because she has high burst damage. This is again where an Ana would be helpful because we could just sleep it and move on.
Focus the Ana behind pillar.
And like again, Mei is also good in a situation like this because we can actually deal with their nano tanks. Right now, our comp doesn't really have any answers for it.
Oh fuck, Widow's down main.
Ana's on pillar. Ana's on pillar.
And we're also playing really disjointed right now. Our Moira is over here and our tank line is over here, so we need to have more communication which area we're playing. It's okay if we want to go separate to pressure targets, but ideally we want to also be pushing so we can get value out of damage and dealing on coalescence. And they're playing separate too, which is fine, but we just need to be making clear what we're intending to do.
I'm getting fucking solo monkeyed. I'm dead.
Again, sleep dart would be on a monkey.
Mercy's half.
Not that I'm flaming the Moira pick, I'm just explaining the Ana pick.
Oh no, it's okay.
We all hate more, it's okay.
Mercy's gonna die.
Worthless fucking character.
Like 2 HP
Coming
here,
back
though.
Lucio.
Alright, so we have a massive advantage. I don't see what's preventing us from just moving towards point. Pharah can be a little bit scary, and our Iris is like half HP, but we can get over it, I think.
I got you. Focusing.
I haven't been watching kill feed. Okay, our Hanzo is up, so Hanzo's good. Yeah, again, you just get to this high ground, you pressure their Pharah out. It's pretty easy from there.
Focusing Pharah, she's low, she's down.
If we do end up getting the retake here, Hanzo, you definitely want to be wrapping on high ground.
She's down.
Hanzo doesn't need to play a tank line and Orisa Hog like he would need to in well, not like he would need to in Ryan's area. But you can like go in flanks a bit.
Group up on point. Hog.
Just throwing dragons down
We should also be looking to get on high ground. Even if it's just Orisa Hanzo on high ground, we can get a lot of pressure from there. Because Orisa Hanzo from high ground can pressure a Pharah if she's playing above here. But not if we're playing down here.
Nice, we're good.
Those man
Kind
is
of a
rush
waste.
heavy.
Moira, dude.
They're gonna have to rush the point, I think. They still
without
have
a widow.
Pharah. They probably have another barrage.
Oh yeah, again, we want to be playing stairs.
Yeah.
I already pointed that out, so I'm not gonna go over that too much again.
Yo, let's get a suck over here. Let's get a suck. Let's get a suck.
They
on
keep
left.
over guessing how much ult the Pharah has.
Yeah, Yeah, all tracking's weird. I actually have a document on all tracking I can send you, but it's reasonably outdated.
Well, everything's gonna change soon enough. So
Well, yeah, with the
now.
extra
They're going
12%.
Monkey on the monkey on
Yep.
the back right, bottom right.
Oh, we have a Lucio.
He's out, he's out.
Yeah, so
If Monkey was going on a flank, we'd be bodied here. We just let them completely open. Only Arissa needs to deal with that for halt. Like, if we see other members of the teammate, we want to do a counter rotation, but now they've got really free silence from behind, just because we all turned around.
amping heals.
Nice, we win, we win.
Diva, Diva,
Winston,
Diva.
super low, Winston, 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 point, Winston, point, Winston,
Like, we're
point,
calling
Winston,
Winston Diva at the same time.
point.
Go,
Nice,
Winston.
nice, 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 nice. I'm up. Nice, we win, we win.
Diva, Diva,
Winston,
Diva.
super low, Winston, Winston, Winston.
Winston without cooldowns is kind of disabled, so I want to focus on Diva a little bit more here.
yeah, calling cooldowns would have been helpful there.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we want to do when figuring out what tanks we want to pressure is, do they have jump bubble or boosters? Good point.
Winston, point,
Got
Winston, point.
got
Nice,
Winston.
nice, 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 nice. I'm on Mercy point, Mercy point, Mercy point, Mercy's
They're
dead.
resing.
Mercy's down, Mercy down.
Far.
Far.
Again, we don't
Resing,
really
resing,
need to
resing,
worry
resing.
about Farah too much. She doesn't have much support. Like, it's okay if she kills our Lucio. But right now we just need to be dealing with the Winston. Because if their Ana comes back, she can play main and pocket him a little bit.
Far.
I'm on Bear, she's half, she's half.
Monkey.
Focusing monkey,
He's
dead,
dead.
he's dead.
Nice.
Yeah, but like, and even there, a misconception with focusing is that you're all going on one target. That's not true. You can like have your Risahog on the monkey here and have your Lucio Hans on the Farah. It's just actually communicating that well enough. So when you're actually trying to calm that, that gets tricky because you don't want somebody saying I'm on Farah and somebody else saying I'm on Winston. So usually you'd want to call the main focus like a main tank. And like a Hanzo, if he sees a vulnerable Farah, he's gonna shoot the vulnerable Farah. Same thing with Lucio. So like you'd want your tanks to come what they're focusing, and then hopefully your team should default to focusing what's the easiest for them to focus.
Far.
Because like if we look here,
Resing.
our Hanzo's not really in a spot to pressure the monkey. It's easy for him to pressure Farah, and same thing with our Lucio, who's somewhere over here. He'd have to wrap all the way around. So focusing can be tricky because some of it's not done in comms.
Resing.
Mercy's down, Mercy down.
It's kind of just thinking, well, what's easiest for me to focus that's actually beneficial.
Far.
I'm on Bear, she's half,
Monkey.
And then we swap after going for monkey, and we just let him be.
Yeah.
Monkey.
A little rough.
Focusing monkey,
He's
dead,
dead.
he's dead.
Nice. In my mind, it was like my best bet to just focus on the call
Monkey.
regardless.
Yeah, it's better to all commit to a bad idea than like halfway commit to a good idea. So
Hmm.
They're resing.
Mercy's down, Mercy down.
Like that Jane quote: "One person doing something stupid is retarded, and a whole team doing something stupid is a plan."
yeah, exactly. I've never heard that. That's actually a pretty good quote.
Nice.
It's one of its better ones.
You just gotta play your style.
It was a paraphrase, though.
A lot of the times, and then
Ah.
their DPS, they're just so far away, and like their Ana too is playing like way in the back. So
Right.
Chad feels bad, man.
dude, he doesn't want to listen to it.
You can only what?
Dude, the disrespect is real.
Let me stay for one more round. Is what he said.
I think we stick to the same
I have
comp.
all bronze
Yeah.
medals back.
Yeah. So before we talk specifics, obviously we don't know what their comp is. I assume we're just speed boosting this one. But
Mhm.
against this comp, we want an Ana over Moira again.
Yeah.
Nate is good against May. Nate is especially good against Ryan Zarya too, as long as they don't have cooldowns. Because they don't have like Orisa shield constantly up. So yeah, we just generally want to be making that swap
By the way,
impossible.
fucking
So
yeah.
usually we start on Ana and only go Moira if they're playing, if we're sure that they're playing dive.
Okay.
Mhm.
Fucking 10 p.m. dude.
Wait, does
Were
he
these
get
the-
paid?
Was this on PTR or was this live?
This was live.
This was live.
Okay, I'm glad we're not reviewing the one where we played against the PTR guys when they played Sigma. That was a fucking shit show.
Oh.
Ready to suck?
Um.
Left side? Can you suck left side?
So Orisa Hog does last longer than Ryan Zarya. The thing that you can't really avoid with an Orisa Hog comp is their Zarya is going to be high energy, just because you're kind of spam output. I know you guys talk about May a little bit, which I'll talk about that. Actually, I'll talk about that a bit now. With May with the Orisa Hog, you're pretty much, if they don't have a May, you're in Urusag Mirror, you're always just gonna have the advantage. Maze wall usage, you guys, I think there was a period on Eichenwald where you talked about using it. It's okay for deflecting Halt Hook, like that's a fine use as long as we're not pushing in. It's extremely good for splitting up their tanks. Like if we have a wall here, especially with Lucio, if we wall the Ryan here, we speed into him with Lucio, we freeze him. If we have a Reaper or something, even Hog Arisa, he's dead. So the main use of wall is just splitting up their tanks.
Mhm.
They rotated. Back
No,
up,
with
back
you
up.
for
Come
one
back
sec,
up.
one sec.
And also, like, nobody wants to engage into Arisa Hog with a mate. That's just scary.
Oh yeah, after this map, could I like ask you like a quick conversation about what I typed before in strategies, the strategies channel about bringing back
engage
Beyblade?
that.
Just your
Alright,
quick thought after.
sure.
Increase on
I
Ryan.
could
I
play the
need
game.
help.
Here's one.
That's actually pretty good onto May.
Ryan,
Um,
May no cooldowns.
Yeah, again, like, May is just so good on this point. If we halt them past this area, we can just wall them up and they can't get past. I don't want to give you guys too much, like, just play this comp here because I don't know your hero pools and what you're comfy on. But there's no reason to play Pharaoh over May, in my opinion, here. Unless we think that they're gonna play like BAP or something.
Cooldowns. May no cooldowns.
Ban the wall.
Ryan is kind of low.
Tree on the right.
Fire
Just
strike.
spam them down. We win.
I can resing. I'm not with you for.
They're maze one. They're maze one on the
Get
right.
some pulls,
Nice
dude.
round.
Maze
We can
actually
get
one.
some
Ready to
pulls.
suck. Ready to suck.
If we're kind of stuck at choke, we might want to be looking at path here just so we can take more for your real estate because we want to start getting onto point.
I was worried about the May the whole time, like walling me in as Arissa, and
Okay.
like,
Well,
so I
yeah.
wasn't really sure. I was like, I don't know, trying to bust shield first or something.
Fire,
then-
Pull the Zarya. She's alone on the right.
Ryan's one. Ryan's one.
I'm out of
Huge
I'm out
slam.
of
Pull the
Big.
Zarya. She's alone on the right.
Yeah, and the issue with this is it's just really easy for them to contest us when they want.
Ryan's one. Ryan's one. Ryan's one.
Oh, I just got you.
Focus Ryan's shield.
We can still win this. We can still win this.
And we have, as Arista Hog, we have more shield break on Ryan Zarya, even if there's Zarya's high energy, because Ryan doesn't really do much shield break because he has to hold his shield up to basically mitigate our shield break. Arista has high DPS, Hog has high DPS.
Yep.
So
Ryan lower left.
we should be calling to focus the shield too at the start of fights. Almost always in Arisa Hog, you want to be focusing their shield first, because that's when you get value out of your right clicks on Hog, your hooks, and your
Kill Ryan.
sorry, halts.
Ryan's dead.
Let's get in.
And if we break shield, that gives free farm for Hanzo.
Dead.
Let's get in. The crease in the center of it. The Zarya, if you can.
Oh, I got.
I'm dead.
We want to be calling which way we want to path out, rather than just having one person basically fucked on each side to go into two people fucked on one
Zarya,
side.
if you can.
Oh, I got.
Mhm.
I'm dead.
Yeah, we gotta reset. We gotta reset now.
Yeah.
We gotta start pulling the people who are out of position.
Yeah. Well, like the Ryan.
So yeah, once our Arista goes down, that's usually when we want to
Gotta
reset.
start pulling the people who are out of position.
Yeah. Well, like the Ryan.
Their Zarya was.
And by goes down, that doesn't mean she has to be dead. That just means no cooldowns, low HP.
Their Zarya was alone on the right. Yeah, the Zarya was alone on the right, and Ryan was on the left.
It's terrible wall usage. When they use law like this, we just want to be looking to rush them and gain as much space as possible.
So if you see somebody out of position, call for them to be sucked.
I'm not with you, bro.
Rotating high ground here is also not terrible. If they have an Arisa Hog, they can try to boop you off. But from high ground, they can't really contest us, and we can contest them because we have range and they don't. At least in tank line. Their
Sorry,
McCree
but-
also gets really low value from that.
Alright, I back.
And they can't wall us from high ground.
Back us in.
Nice one.
Or no fade.
Alright, are you ready to go
Alright,
in?
ready to suck, dude. Ready to suck.
Ready, ready, ready?
I'm gonna go a little bit less map specific because I feel like I've been doing too much of that.
Let's go.
I got the Moira. Got the Moira.
Nice, nice, nice. It's really big. It's really big.
I pulled the.
Okay, again, call when you have pull off cooldown when you're gonna look to go for it before actually doing it.
Got the Moira. Got the Moira.
Because then we can confirm if we have hook. Like, pull gets value alone from hook, like I talked about earlier, but just make sure that
Nice, nice,
you're on the
it's
same
really
page
big,
about
it's
it.
really big.
I pulled the.
Yeah, was this a smart decision for me to whole hog here?
Yeah, we're pressuring their tank line.
Focus round, focus round.
We're breaking their shield too.
Back up around corner.
And just play here, shorter sight lines.
We have to push. We have to push.
They've lost their tank line, so we should just be looking to go in and clean up at this point.
Sorry, low.
Our fair Mercy also wants to be playing an off angle. Like, if you're playing on the left here, we can pressure them into our tank line.
Go.
Sorry, did.
Sorry,
Push in,
down,
push in,
down.
push in.
Our Hanzo is doing a good job playing an off angle though.
On
Push
the
him,
point
push him.
now.
Bit overkill.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
I
I
see.
I'm getting flamed over here.
Alright, we have
Theater.
1.5
No
joking.
joking.
Left in time bank for us. Alright. We can burn a shield here.
I can coalescence on the.
Should
Yeah,
we
grab it.
position
Yeah,
aggressively at the choke
Yeah, I
there?
was about to get to that. We want to play doorways again. They're kind of gonna be weird engaging onto us. And again, a May would be so helpful here. But if we play at doorways, that gives our fair just opportunities to appear and spam. If we had barrage, we could also use barrage there.
That's
But
awkward.
Flamed.
it's also a little bit tighter, and it prevents them from rotating. So,
Yes, if I have map. There's probably another shatter as well.
like as a Orisa Hog, especially, just don't be too afraid to hold up.
I got the Moira again.
Also with Ryan's Zarya, halt hook is a little bit interesting. Ryan can just look up to stop your halt most of the time, so we want to halt as they're rotating because they're usually gonna have one or two people straggling in the back.
Does that allow me to hook his feet? If he does that?
Depends on the angle, because like if he's here, shields normally like this. He
Yeah,
only really
if-
needs to look up like this, and then that's still blocking. I know it's a lot bigger than
Yeah.
the
I mean
previous.
from
shield.
like that original angle if that actually happened.
I think that's a little bit too gimmicky to
Okay.
actually hit consistently.
Oh, they lost.
Like
He's right on your
DC.
hog right now.
Yeah.
And DC time's kind of similar to what we want to do with time before the map actually starts. Be discussing our win conditions, be discussing alts, that gives our main support up, or whoever calls alts a break to actually breathe and call alts a bit.
On your hog right now.
Yeah.
He's right on your hog right now. So just melee him and you should die.
She DC'd, dude.
I didn't know that it was an auto pause.
Yeah, you got like double tap
Oh.
headshotted.
Oh, so he's dead. Okay, good to know.
It's in the kill feed.
I mean, really? No, it's not. Pause.
For me.
My hook's not on cooldown.
We might be able to get a pull dragon also.
Alright, whew.
I have coalescence as well.
Ready to pull?
Yeah, we're up in this
now.
fight.
So with your storm arrow usage, it's a really good cooldown in general. It's kind of iffy just into shields. The best usage of it is to like high energy Zarya is really difficult to deal with. We're kind of limited on answers with this comp. We do have halt and hook, but if we hook them, they're gonna live through and probably get some all charge off hog. So the best usage of Stormer in this situation would just be to like insta kill their Zarya once she's exposed.
Like,
They zoomed
In-
out.
in areas before you can actually land that off, you can. I'd say against using it for shield break, but you can pressure them out if they're peeking around shield because it's not a
Keep-
necessarily long cooldown.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I keep forgetting that I can still right click into a pull.
Oh,
But I've never done that. I know that I can do it, but I keep forgetting.
Back up. Group up. Let's group up.
That's just one mechanic I need to work on.
They're on left.
Yeah.
They're on left.
They definitely have
They're playing so in the middle. Back up some. Back up.
Ready for
a lot.
suck.
I'm
They're
gonna-
going high ground.
Right side. They're going
Back
up on
point,
high
back
ground.
point, back point, back
Yeah,
point,
they're
back
pushing
point.
me. They're pushing me.
Maze low. No
Go
wall.
towards mini. Go towards our mini.
okay. They rotate high ground again. That's not crazy because the Ryan's area doesn't get too much value,
You have a suck?
and we can just play on the edge of point, and we're fine. We have Hanzo, so we have better range.
If you want to pull it.
Did we bongo? Yeah.
Yeah, bongoing at this point is good. We want to bongo. You don't just bongo at the start of the fight because then they can back off. You bongo like as they're actually showing
Once they've
commitment to the fight.
engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
Once they're committed, yeah.
I'd say it's honestly a little bit too late here. I'll just show
I
you
can
where.
dragon up there if you want to pull it.
The second they're Ryan just
Drops.
goes high ground. Yeah, and
It was
it is
close.
kind of close to that, but yeah, we shouldn't be playing on this area at all. We should just be holed up in the corner. Yeah, they grab and melt. So with these types of fights, we can be calling it somewhat winnable, and we should be at this point. But we also don't want to like just feed. We want to play a little bit to stall.
That was weird.
And Orisa is good at stalling because we have shield.
Yeah. I mean, I was calling it winnable because the Ryan was low.
Oh, I didn't even hear the winnable call. Yeah, I was just pointing out in general.
okay, it might be winnable.
This is potentially winnable because we do have more in our Sahag.
We can win this.
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
And if we kill Zarya, it is.
Shoot super low, super low.
Hog gets bullied by fans.
Oh, he's fucked.
But yeah, we still get an extra 10% of this.
So try to damage boost the whole hog into
We
this,
have
I think.
whole hog and we have.
They spawn camped us from there. So try to damage boost the whole hog into this,
We
I
have
think.
whole
Like here, Stormer would be fine to pressure this Zarya.
We have whole hog and.
Yeah, I'm gonna look
I got
at how they
fucking
spawn
booped, dude.
camped.
Okay, just reset.
If you get confident enough on Arisog, like you can even spawn camp on this map because they don't really have other ways to rotate around.
Mm.
It just depends on how confident you are and not making cooldown mistakes.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't take a fight here. You just pressure them a little bit, and then you want to actually have another fight on point. If you are spawn camping, which I don't recommend at the moment.
Watch out, they still have
Lock the point, yeah.
they still have shatter, I think.
Oh no, I got stunned. I'm not gonna be able to.
This is a good off angle. Unlucky.
Yeah,
Wanna do a fair here or?
Alright, Ana's kind of awkward on this map. It's good if you can set up top right. You usually can't do that first fight. So you're gonna be playing on one side of the area in front of point. And that also is awkward because you don't direct sight lines. So Ana's a little bit awkward on this map in general. Same thing with Orisa Hog. I think you guys swapped to dive. But it's just because there's a giant thing in the middle of the point, pretty much.
So like a Zenyatta would be better.
We don't have any distance.
I'm just waiting to see what you swap to before I tell you exactly what you want.
I'm gonna be
Is it-
playing this.
Oh,
like,
okay.
As we walk out for at least a little while.
Well, yeah, I just mean with the rest of your comp too.
Okay.
I'd say more is actually not bad here. BAP's okay because you can easily access different areas of the point, but BAP is bad into dive. So, like, again, if we can get the high ground, Ana's okay-ish. And Ana's good defensively, that's the other thing, because you have the high ground. So starting on Ana isn't terrible as long as you're communicating the sightlines that you're playing. And that's what happens here. Our tanks go too far past. And so I'll show you exactly where you can play here.
I'm gonna dive top right here.
So with this comp, your healers are a little bit weird. Mercy's just going to be pretty much sticking on Pharah, and Tank's one's convenient. So you're on as your primary tank healer.
Monkey's here.
Um,
Monkey.
so yeah, you can't take this high ground usually first fight. If you can, then they're kind of feeding. I'd say you'd want to be playing around this area. You want to play to the left if possible, just so you can see them on top right or over here.
Yeah, I'm moving that direction.
I got the widow. Nice. D.Va.
Mercy one,
Mercy
Mercy
low.
Yeah, I'm not critiquing where you're playing now. I'm just saying in general.
Okay.
We probably should have like catered to
'Cause
our
this is
Ana's
also fine,
positioning.
'cause- Yeah. Ana, when you're playing dive with an Ana, your tanks and Ana need to know. Well, you can usually know where tanks are, but Ana, you need to know where your Ana is. And again, that's not always Ana's fault. That's just stuff that needs to be figured out beforehand, like before the
Yeah.
round starts.
This is our first like coaching session, and so a lot of that stuff is still kind of like
Can't dive deeper. You have to come back.
not figured out fully.
Yeah, it happens. Nobody's perfect.
Dive back.
You're not responsible for healing Pharah. It's just kind of a little bit of a waste of time, in my opinion. If your Pharah is not, if you have to heal your Pharah, either your Pharah or Mercy's not doing your job. You don't really need to heal Pharah there, but
Okay.
I am with this Winston. It's not necessary. He can help your D.Va pressure a little bit more.
They're resting the D.Va.
So yeah, defensive position on this map's a little bit interesting. I'll explain that once you guys take your
We're main
positioning.
now. Your Ana's playing point right now.
Pharah's half.
The soldier's down. Nice.
All right, so this is okay for Ana. The high ground is a little bit awkward if we are playing the left side of point, but usually you can start high ground and wrap around to where you are at the moment if needed. Our D.Va wants to play on the edge of the high ground because we can contest their Pharah Mercy if they're playing above, which is the only area that they can play. You can't contest as easily from the ground. And your Ana, if she's also high ground, your D.Va can act as peel. Your Monkey wants to play door just to pressure. And your Widow can be playing the high ground up here or somewhere on point, like on the left. This is where your Widow can get creative with angles.
Can we push on a little?
And your Mercy's kind of just fluid movement.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I
oh,
was,
sorry.
like, far left right now.
Yeah, your Pharah Mercy's playing around here. That's about where you're at the moment. Playing here is a little bit risky because they can pressure you easier from spawn, and with this you have a natural cover. Because playing up here you have an ignore the building, but you have an angle down there. Whereas playing here they can't
I
really
think I
reach.
settle there eventually.
Okay.
We have dive. Diva's just around the corner on their side.
But yeah, and it's even worse once they swap to soldier. We should be identifying that they want this high ground because soldier's good on this high ground. He's useless anywhere on the map.
Wait, so you're saying we should be like taking defensive position up there?
I anti somebody.
Oh yeah, we want our diva on up here.
Okay.
So diva can contest spare mercy, and so that diva can contest them if they're trying to rotate the high ground.
But monkey still holds door, or
Yeah. Well, you can jump if you need,
Yeah.
but you're holding door essentially to prevent them from moving forward more. If they're rotating around this way, you can just jump to high ground, so you can pressure them from high ground and drop down when needed.
I anti somebody.
And their comp's a little bit awkward for rotation, so we can kind of just mess them up.
Monkey.
I have nano for you, monkey.
Yeah, we're playing wide on this way, so they can pretty much take this for free.
We're good.
I question that Nano a little bit. Nano's okay at the start of fights, especially if we do end up building a Nano barrage, which we're close to. That can win us fights, and we can also have our monkey pressure a little bit with Nano at the start of fights. So it's a little bit iffy for cleanup.
Mercy 1.
Okay.
I got the Pharah.
I thought it was an okay idea because we didn't have a pick yet and we were already kind of in. I wanted to
Oh, okay.
start.
We
winning the
just have
fight
better
sooner.
position in general, but I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I got the
So
Pharah.
Yeah,
that
we're
was like
not
my
in any
logic,
time
but
rush.
I can see why it was actually flawed now.
Okay.
Wasn't the end of this map like a shit show? But we still won.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we bait him
It's
in.
probably
barrage
just
him. Can you fly above the door? Nice.
focusing problem, but we'll see.
Can you scout a little bit, Diva? Can you see them?
Oh, they're resing. Okay, they wasted res.
Wait, we're still on the right side.
Oh, she's gonna be back in like a few seconds. Big eyes.
I got the Widow.
Yeah, we just really want some on the second. And that's easiest for Diva to do, just because he can move around. And if you're on this high ground, you can pressure down here, and you can jump on here if your monkey needs help.
Right.
Mercy's down.
I don't have boosters.
As for dive communication on defense, on this map, it's kind of, we're not really diving, we're pressuring instead. Diving usually intends committing cooldowns. We don't want to commit cooldowns to jumping because it's kind of tight. And they're also close to spawn. They've got all 6 there. They're not really going to be too split. Like on offense, we'd want to dive, but on defense, we pressure instead because they have to move through this area, so we can pressure them with monkey and diva.
So wouldn't a good example of that be like we should be on the high ground, and so that way as they like move through, you can just sort of fall down onto the back line and then jump
pressuring
out
them.
as for like the pressure instead of the dive. Okay.
Again, our monkey doesn't want to be high ground, but we would rotate high ground if they are playing on the right.
Okay.
And you mean jump around from the high corner, like over this wall on the right?
Sorry?
Because you can't really jump over the barrier.
I'm not sure what you're
Top
talking
right.
about. Oh yeah. You can jump at an angle up to the high ground and avoid the barrier.
Yeah.
The barrier, you're also gonna have a longer jump, so that wastes more time. But yeah, you've got a jump angle from there, I believe.
I kind of want to bomb into them when they push. They're going not right.
Yeah, an offensive bomb at this
Right.
point is good.
It's like last fight for them.
No, they're going right still.
Like we can have a nano barrage or something here. We don't have nano at the moment, but that's a defensive tactic.
I don't think it got value though. I don't remember.
What didn't get value?
The bomb that I use, I think. I don't think it gets value.
Well, yeah. In general, defensive bombing isn't a terrible. Oh yeah, they engage for.
Winston's point.
I was late, I think.
This is when our diva wants to be jumping, since Winston still wants pressure, so their supports can move forward.
So yeah, I should have done that earlier.
Yeah, you would want to bomb earlier and not bomb as they engage. Since bombing as they engage isn't very useful.
Right.
Winston is safe.
We can also be using concussive blast as a defensive peel tool. It's rarely underrated in that use.
That's left side point.
No, I'm dead.
This is where I focus lost, I think.
Increases every time I use barrage.
I'm on Diva on point. I have no heals. Focus target. Who are you shooting? Alright, shoot Diana then.
Just reset.
Alright, I'm gonna look at our dive coordination on the
They have a
offense.
widow now.
Yeah, I needed to hear OG say that he was doing that.
So they have Widow Soldier.
I think.
We have okay. So we nano our Winston into a dive.
Wait, do we want to keep the Pharah if
Nano
they're running?
Pharah.
What? Where are we on Lucio?
Alright, they're definitely, well, they should be top right high ground. So yeah, we just nano monkey dive top right high ground, or diva. So our monkey can dive from the front, and our diva can jump around from the back and just push them into monkey.
When to stop?
And then our widow can play like a off angle on left and pressure them if they're trying to drop.
When to stop?
Because they've
Okay.
at least got soldier there, I assume.
Where's Widow?
I not exactly 100%, but
Both high ground. You can nano our.
it would be
I'm gonna
weird
dive
to
up
not
with
be
you.
holding high ground at this
So-
point. And if they're not holding high ground, we can just jump up to high ground initially, pressure a bit from high ground, start taking more space, and then we can pressure them from point and jump back if needed.
They're all on high
Guys,
ground.
I'm ready for
Widow,
you.
yeah, Widow's on the top right.
Yeah, they're high ground.
One.
We might want to consider using a concussive blast to knock them off, and then if enough is down, our monkey can engage point. If we only get 1 or 2, then we can still engage high ground.
Top
Okay.
right.
One.
Because even with nano monkey, diving 6 people on high ground is rough.
Yeah.
Fuck, I missed.
I'm on Widow. I'm on Widow.
If you go to point, I can nano you.
Because they're all clustered up here, Mercy doesn't have an easy backup, so we should be focusing Mercy more.
I can nano you. Nice, nice, nice.
Well coordinated things like their Ana should be playing low ground, so that their Mercy can fly there. If they're most of them are holding high ground, like with our comp, how on defense, our Ana and Diva are up here, and our Mercy's playing separate on the left, so Ana would be the backup guardian angel target if Pharah gets pressured. But here they don't really have that.
Nice, nice, nice. Mercy's low. Widow point. Also.
Yeah, and this is good. Their tanks are split.
Point. Also half.
We need to be going soldier here
Also half.
or Ana.
Dead here to the.
Yeah, they all dropped on. It's kind of rough.
On.
monkey.
Nice, you guys win these. You guys win these. I'm coming back.
I'm sure you hit
Lucio.
Q there, didn't you?
Yeah, it was one of those like I was
What the
too
fuck,
low.
Q
I hit
button?
it like a
Yeah.
half a second sooner.
Fair. When do you normally use boop versus dive?
I use it a lot when a diva's just flying at me and she's like not gonna.
Okay, to
that's
avoid
what she
pressure.
said.
Yeah. Try to use it more in conjunction with your tanks, I think.
Okay.
When possible, though.
I'll try to do that more.
Does it make sense to ever use the boop to move the supports like into our tanks on the dive?
Oh,
maybe?
I think
Like, if they're trying
on
to escape.
It's better for misplacing their tank line, to be honest.
yeah, the other
Okay.
map I went in the corner and I booped like their Ryan forward a shit ton into
Yeah,
our bunker.
Stuff like that is good. Because if we misplace their tanks, then they're like the healer's main job is to keep up tanks, really. Besides
Mhm.
Mercy, and if their tanks are dead, we can just run all over them with our tanks.
Left side.
We're still even. We're still even.
Widow's still on high ground.
Yeah, but like with boop, you can just make dive targets a lot more diveable by pushing them in, or you can push them away from teammates, or away from like you can push them out into the open more.
Diva super low. Diva super low. Diva out of max.
Again, this is where I'd say just swap Hanzo if they have Pharah soldier, to be honest.
Sea
Soldier on
Dogs.
Mega right now.
And they also don't have any shields, so double sniper is kind of gonna wreck them. Well, they do have technically shields in Matrix, but they're not like a Ryan shield or anything.
They res
Mhm.
soldier.
On Mega right
Okay.
now.
Were you trying to shift into that doorway?
Yeah, I got cucked.
Super low.
F.
Or I
we
cucked
still winning
myself.
or are we back?
Soldier one.
Yeah,
Diva. I got their Widow.
Peek back someone so I can get in.
Widow's on point half.
I have a fucking monkey on me.
On.
Widow's
Yeah,
on
with
point
Primal,
I have a-
going for Widow's okay, and you get some nice triggers, but I just sit on the Ana.
Widow's on point half.
Yeah.
I have a
And we're kind of scrappy at this moment because I don't see where anyone else is.
fucking monkey on me.
On. Can you focus on him maybe? Mercy is also
back
Mercy
after
super one.
Slap.
Mercy actually won. Mercy actually won. Mercy down.
I'm on Anna. I'm on Anna point.
On.
They're all over me. I need help.
I need heals. I need heals.
I'm
Burn
healing.
heals.
They have walls. Watch out.
There's a soldier main.
They're all
Let's look at the focus a little bit here.
Mercy actually won. Mercy down.
I'm on Anna. I'm on Anna point.
On.
They're all over me. I need help.
Ana's
I
good.
really wish we had
I
like
need heals. I need heals.
a camera on our back line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Not
weird
this
to throw in
weird
third person.
I'm healing.
They have
Unlucky.
walls.
We'll
Watch
have to
out.
let
There's a soldier main.
Queen
I'm
know.
on Widow. Dead.
Eva point.
Diva.
Yeah, like again, this is what I was talking about. Monkey knows that Widow's low HP up there, so he can just jump up quickly and come down.
That's Diva point.
Diva.
Diva one on point.
play
Diva
point.
one. Diva one.
I'm going for the mega.
Tracer's really good. Like, well, yeah, Tracer is good. But Tracer is good specifically at when we get to the scrappy points of fights. She is really good at switching targets, throwing in a clip, and swap and blinking around.
Before you unpause it, look at that ass.
All right.
Damn.
But yeah, so Tracer is really good to swap in these situations.
Hit the soldier.
But
This
at,
is
at
where we
this point,
fucked up. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
If tanks are vulnerable, I'd say once soldier's out of the fight, don't worry about him until he comes back, unless he's 1 HP.
Baby Diva around back.
Yeah, who's contesting?
I'm not sure. I think it's Baby Diva.
Dude.
Yeah, Baby
Oh, yeah.
Diva.
You gotta get the mercy in that. Play safe, play safe. Just play in here, play in here.
Uh-oh.
The mercy's
Yeah,
one, the mercy's
here
one.
starts the shit show.
It's hard to tell focusing. Sorry, if third person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Queen just really wanted to spectate OG for some reason.
Maybe you just want to get a bowl of cereal or some shit.
Probably did.
Yeah, I was
Oh, yeah,
hoping
you
to
did-
look
you
more
definitely
at
said you did.
general communication, but it's hard to tell if dive because a lot of that's focusing, and I can only see 1% at a time.
I'm focusing Diva.
I'm not a ball player, so
I'm
yeah.
focusing Diva. Oh, ball.
Shoot at them.
I'm focusing ball.
Dude, good call, right?
Nice call. Shoot at them.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Easy. You don't focus a ball that's rolling around. You just play on the inner area point so you can't pew pew. Because that's stupid to kill, and your team doesn't have a. Oh, wait, that's
A
wrong.
stun. We have no
Uh,
stuns.
Yeah, you don't have a dark dancer. So,
A dark dancer.
a direct answer.
Oh.
We have to get the soldier.
I was just trying to get us to focus something because I was really tired of us
Constantly on
like
me, guys.
slowly dying.
Mercy's kind of free here. She doesn't have anyone far to fly to.
I
But we
think
want to
she's
be
about to
identified.
die here in a few seconds.
Like we want to look at her cooldowns. We don't look at Diva's cooldowns. Tracer, we don't have to worry about too much unless she's farming her backline.
Well,
for
those
free.
are our players.
I see mercy.
Oh, okay. I'm getting colors confused.
No, that's the
Oh,
enemy.
Yeah,
Is it?
it's
Wait.
scuffed.
Oh wait, yeah, this is weird.
The colors
Yeah,
are
for
scuffed.
some
Oh.
reason the
Wait,
queen
what?
has a stupid colorblind filter on, so everything
That's that
pink
too.
is-
Oh,
What's happening?
1 sec, sorry.
no problem. No problem.
Is someone getting a pink slip?
Huh?
That's a joke.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Nice.
dude.
Wait, hold on,
Um,
I gotta fire somebody real quick.
Focus targets.
Got her.
Beat this.
General thing, it's not worth wasting any time on Lucio during stall. He doesn't have any impact. Like, all he is a little bit of spray, a little bit of speed, a little bit of healing.
Soldier half
So
mate.
even Ball is like, we want to focus him more than Lucio. And now Ball is engaging, so he should just be dead. And yeah, now he's 1 HP.
Did they
Lucio wants
patch?
Lucio,
The,
Monkey, I
Ball
don't know
thing?
why you're chasing Lucio at the moment. It is kind of hard for Monkey to go after Ball because he's moving around a lot. But you can kind of just sit here, you can pressure them if anybody else is coming for it, or you can just pressure Ball when he comes around.
Alright.
And obviously, if Lucio is not giving you too
Lucio
much
and
trouble,
Ball
you can
one.
kill him.
Ball's down.
Just as he
But
said
yeah,
it. he
we
just
want
did
people
that.
pressuring up here, so that, like their soldier can't set
Mhm.
up.
Yeah, I was trying to break minds with that.
Nice. We're doing good. Sigurd.
Nice.
We're gonna have heal station. Sigurd. We're gonna have heal station here.
Again, Moira is tricky to kill. Unless she's Fade, we don't have to worry about Moira too much. Diva can actually provide bigger impact with her burst damage. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to spend so much time on this map. I hope you guys got some stuff out of it. It would be a lot easier if we had overhead to look at specific communication or positioning. And as a recap, general takeaways, well, not takeaways, but most teams, like, they think you only want one person to shot call. You want someone who's IGLing, so that's more calling, like that would be your main tank usually, calling targets you're going after, calling your quick rotations, calling where you're going that's similar to rotations, calling the general stuff you want to, how you want to be moving as a team. And then your main support should be more of a planner if they're comfortable. Alt tracking, we should also be talking about win conditions, how we're going to win the fight. And that's not necessarily we rotate high ground because that's more of a main tank thing, but it's like we want to halt hook their hog and then we pressure their Orisa and win because they don't have a tank lane. So your main support or off support or whatever role really wants to be identifying how we're actually winning those fights. We don't just want to say what else we have, like we can know what else they have. If we don't actually act on it, it doesn't matter. We want to be thinking about how we're going to use our alts and how they're going to use their alts. Usually what I see is teams will call the enemy's alts. It might be accurate, it might not be accurate, but either way they don't actually think about that when they're figuring out how they're going to take the fight. Like if we know that they have tactical visor, we don't, well actually that's not really high impact since we can still dive them pretty much, but just be thinking about how to register in fights. And like if we're engaging, we can be like, oh, we have mines, so we can run up and pressure them on high ground with our mines. We can force them off so that they can't tactical visor from high ground and we can just pick them off easily. But try to be figuring out that level of planning. That's, it doesn't exactly fall to one person too. It's traditionally main support, but as a team you want to be contributing to that. So I have a 10 to 12 block, so I need to run fairly soon. But if you have any general questions, DM me. And I know somebody wants to talk about the thing in this strategies. So let me look.
Beyblade meta. Do you think it could come back?
What do you mean Beyblade meta? Just the combo or?
So my comp idea was Sombra, Reaper, Ana Lucio, Dive, or Rein Zarya.
There's been a lot of Orisa Hog.
It depends on the map.
May Reaper.
Yeah, Orisa Hog, May Reaper is good. Yes. Lucio's good with Reaper. I don't really see Summer's job in this comp, to be honest.
It would be to like hack a diva so that you could get the Beyblade off.
I mean, that's not really too beneficial if the job of the character is just to get an alt combo off. Alt combos are usually iffy, just because like a single stun can end it. But and also usually as a Reaper, like you only want to ult if they're all 1 HP and you can't shoot them all at once because you get you can live fairly long with life steal.
Yeah, but it's a whole different discussion though. I wanted to get into later, but I don't need to right now.
I'd say May's just a little bit more valuable there in general with that comp.
Right.
If you have Rein Zarya, that is. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know and I can answer a few questions now.
Yeah, sure. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Alright, anything else?
Is there anything that was there like any glimpses of like good play or anything like that? Like was there anything that we I mean like no. I don't want them to like, you know, stroke our dicks or anything like that, but I want to genuinely know if there's something that we have been doing like semi decently that we should keep up, that maybe we can.
That's not really stuff I'm looking for as I'm doing that. Let me think.
Okay. I was just wondering if you happen to notice anything. It's fine, don't worry about it.
I didn't look at later, but you guys seem to have good general mentality and you're listening to each other more. Like a lot of teams have issues of all trampling over each other, and like everyone's like, there's always people who complain about not being listened to, and only about 1/3 of things actually get acted on that go because you're constantly calming stuff, but you can only really do one thing at a time. So I'd say your general, like you've got a solid base for communication. Communication structures are kind of weird. You just figure out what works for you and roll with it. You don't have a really set communication. But I'd say communication general, from what I can tell, I can't look at mechanics or anything. So I'd say communication is generally your strong suit.
Okay. Thank you. He's out.
He's gone, boys.
Oh.